cloud and a few showers around as well. And temperatures a little bit higher than today across the far south and west due to more cloud around, but it's going to feel quite wintry throughout much of this week. Some rain across the far south and east through Wednesday morning. That will clear away as the day goes on. Then we continue to see this brisk northerly wind bringing some snow showers to northeastern areas of England. So we've also got a snow and ice warning in force here, as Wednesday and Thursday is looking like the coldest parts of the week. So it will get colder as the week goes on. Bye-bye.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Huge set of front pages for you. Labour's backlash over dystopian asylum shake-up. The left-wing papers do not like Shabana Mahmood getting tough on illegal immigration. However, the Daily Mirror have done a ridiculous piece by Keir Starmer, who is now saying that he will be Labour leader at the next election. Does someone want to bookmark this and show it to him in a few months' time when he's out on his backside? The Times: families face deportation in asylum law shake-up, but the Tories are pledging that they might help get Shabana Mahmood's illegal migrant crackdown through Parliament. What do you make of it?
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome along to Patrick Christys tonight, late edition and breaking right now.
Unfortunately, I am the one that is regularly called and told to go back home. It is I who knows through my personal experience and that of my constituents just how divisive the issue of asylum has become.
This is what always happens, OK? Home secretaries give huge speeches in the House of Commons. There's the initial reaction, which is usually broadly positive. And then as the hours roll by, the cracks begin to show.
It's shameful that a Labour government is ripping up the rights and protections of people who have endured unimaginable trauma. Is this how we'd want to be treated if we were fleeing for our lives? Of course not.
Well, the rebels are out in force and they are growing seemingly by the hour. I think I'm right in saying there's now 19 open rebels in the Labour Party. Let's be honest with you, there's a huge amount more. It's all across the front pages. Apparently there's going to be asylum mutiny. Who could have seen that coming from a party run by an international human rights lawyer with an Attorney General who's an international human rights lawyer and a Home Secretary who, of course, not only welcomed illegal migrants onto the Greek shores of Lesbos, but then also literally campaigned to take Jamaican criminals off a deportation flight, one of whom killed a man with a machete. But the Home Secretary has spoken to GBNews.
I want to implement these reforms as quickly as possible. I want to reduce the pull factors that are persuading people to get into
we know
those
all
boats.
that. How do we judge your success? Numbers?
Well, judge me on delivery. Judge me on delivery. I want to get those boat crossings down.
There is some strong stuff that she's come out with today, and I don't want to be unfair to her. However, she was pressed there by our political editor, Christopher Hope, on whether or not she would get the number of small boat migrants down, and she couldn't say she would. But in other news...
We want to cut taxes, of course we do. But we understand substantial tax cuts, given the dire state of debt and our finances, are not realistic at this current moment in time.
Well, Nigel Farage is going to unveil a new plan tomorrow, which is to save us money, basically. And he says he's going to save billions by just slashing foreign aid by, roughly 90%. But also removing welfare for foreigners. Not just any foreigners, though. EU nationals, as I understand it. So EU nationals on benefits in the UK are going to have those benefits taken off them. But Rachel Reeves has different ideas.
It's about making sure that people feel better off. And I have in my right time working people like you who are struggling with the cost of living crisis.
Just to add insult to injury, Labour could be about to make you pay to go on holiday in your own country. Pay tax to go on holiday in your own country. It's remarkable. Can you believe it? With us this evening is comedian and GB News contributor Leo Kearse. We've got former Tory MP Alex Stafford, a journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth. But let's get those headlines now with Katie Bowen.
Patrick, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 11:03. To the British people, the asylum system feels out of control and unfair. Those were the words of the Home Secretary as she announced a raft of reforms in the House of Commons tonight. Shabana Mahmood said that while asylum claims across Europe are falling, those to the UK are rising, criticising the relative generosity of this system as she made refugee status temporary. Focused specifically on stopping so-called pull factors to Britain for illegal migrants and ramping up removals, the Home Secretary said asylum seekers will be returned home once their country is deemed safe, and most will face a 20-year wait before applying for permanent settlement. Ms Mahmood added that family reunion will only be possible under the most extreme circumstances. She issued a specific warning to Angola, the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Namibia, saying if they do not comply with accepting returns, the government will impose visa penalties on them. The Home Secretary reiterated the government's promise to end the use of asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament, adding that Labour are looking at former military bases as a solution. While Shabana Mahmood spoke to GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope.
I can see that this issue is dividing people across our country. It is not an issue just of white people rejecting migration or asylum seekers. I see my own constituents deeply worried about the community tensions and a system that is out of control and is unfair. So the concern about migration is something that is shared by British people of every background and every ethnicity in this country.
Also tonight, the UN Security Council has voted in favour of Donald Trump's peace plan for Gaza, which includes deployment of international troops. Hamas, however, have immediately rejected the decision, saying the plan fails to meet Palestinians' rights and demands to impose an international trusteeship on the enclave that Palestinians and resistant factions oppose. The plan says member states can take part in the Board of Peace, envisioned as a transitional authority that would oversee reconstruction and economic recovery of Gaza. Reselling tickets for live events for profit is set to be banned by the government. The Guardian and the Financial Times are reporting that ministers are expected to announce the plan on Wednesday, which aims to tackle touts and resale sites which offer tickets at several times their face value. The decision comes as artists like Dua Lipa and Coldplay called on Sir Keir Starmer to honour Labour's manifesto pledge by stopping what they called pernicious touts. The government declined to comment on the reports. And Birmingham bin strikes could continue beyond May's local elections unless a deal is reached, Unite the Union has warned. Today, workers overwhelmingly voted to extend their strike action, as those who are directly employed by Birmingham City Council are now set to be joined on picket lines by agency workers from the 1st of December. Unite General Secretary Sharon Graham called the move by agency workers a real escalation in the dispute. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Let's go back to Patrick.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good evening. Let's get stuck straight into Tuesday's front pages. We start with the Metro. Labour asylum mutiny begins as the Home Sec reveals sweeping changes. The Eye. Tories pledge to help the Home Secretary get her migration crackdown past angry Labour rebels. Well, it's more than the Labour administration ever did, isn't it? But The Guardian. Starmer faces Labour revolt over hardline asylum plan. So again, there's a whiff of a Labour rebellion here. There's more than a whiff of it. There's at least 19 of them now who've already started to do it. The Sun. It just doesn't add up. Fury at perks for illegal migrants. So this is interesting. So The Sun quite often now do these different stories. They've done art classes and balloon animals for illegal migrants at deportation centres before. Now it turns out they've been getting maths tutors as well. So, you know, that's great. They'll just, you know, teach them how to do the numbers so that they can work out exactly how much it's going to cost them to break into Britain next time. The Daily Telegraph, Mahmood turns the air blue in a blast at Liberals. I'm going to play you a clip of that shortly. She swore in the House of Commons and also used a racial slur about herself for just pains to say she wasn't just overtly racist towards anyone. Although that depends, because if you ask Sarah Sultana, she says she was racist to loads of people. But, yeah, she basically evoked some of the issues that have happened to her, the racism she's felt in her own life as a result of, as she says now, knowing exactly the division in the country. The Mirror, this is hilarious. Sir Keir Starmer, it's an exclusive on the front of the Mirror. He says that he's definitely going to lead Labour into the next election. I think we should just screenshot that. Everybody now take a moment to take a picture of that on your television screens and we'll see how long that lasts. Is that the next thing he's going to U-turn on? The Independent, Labour backlash over, quotes, dystopian asylum shake-up. Watch out for a lot of this in the coming days. A lot of the hard left, a lot of the Human Rights Brigade, a lot of the charity sector, they're all calling it dystopian, all of this stuff now. It's the same rhetoric they use to criticise the Tories and they use to criticise reform. The Mail, racist abuse that means I know broken asylum system must be fixed. This is the Home Secretary rejecting claims that she's stoking division by claiming, and I'm going to have to be very careful all night now, saying that she's the one who gets called an effing P word and told to go back home. The Express, steps in right direction, but is the asylum plan doomed to fail? They're talking about what legal issues are going to be. Every time anyone's tried to do anything when it comes to deporting anyone, it's been basically rejected by the courts. One more for you. The Times, families face deportation in asylum law shake-up. Well, look, I'm going to go to my panel in a second, but I just want to play you a couple of clips of Shabana Mahmood just to show you what she said. One of the eye-catching aspects of this is that she is going to take, not personally, the assets of people who arrive in Britain illegally. So anything from jewellery to cash to whatever it is, to use that so that they have to pay for their own asylum accommodation. Here she is saying it.
It is right that those who do receive support pay for it if they can. So those with income or assets will have to contribute to the cost of their stay.
Right, OK, another one here, and this is going to be a big legal hold-up, is stripping back the right to a family life. You know, come on over, bring 14 of your closest relatives. In fact, scrap that, bring a village. Well, she's saying, no, just immediate family. Here's what she said.
This is particularly true of Article 8, the right to a family life. The courts have adopted an ever-expanding interpretation of this right, and as a result, many people have been allowed to come to this country when they would otherwise have had no right to. And we have been unable to remove others when the case for doing so seems overwhelming.
And of course, one of the big factors it broke by the Department for Work and Pensions today, their news, was that about 66% of people with refugee status in Britain are on universal credit. Benefits is a huge issue when it goes. We've got an audible gasp from Leo Kerr, so I'm going to go to in a second. Here is her actually talking about benefits for migrants.
We will also consult on removing benefits for those who are able to work but choose not to.
Right, OK, Leo, go now. So let's deal with the substance of what she's actually said today. What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, I know there's a lot of talk that this is all kayfabe, this is all playing to the voters, but really she knows that Labour backbenchers, all the wet Liberals are going to stymie any plans. Listening to her speak, I'm convinced. I think she wants to make this happen, and I think she's a rare politician with the actual with the guts and the will to actually make it happen. She's a pretty formidable woman, as Carla Denyer found out today.
Yes.
I'd love to see them. It looked like Carla Denyer was going to vault over the front and
like actually, a jockey.
Yeah. with a blue wicked bottle. But no, it's like Weatherspoon's car park at 2 a.m. It was fantastic. But I mean, the stuff that Shabana Mahmood is saying is all pretty essential. It's been described, by wet Liberals as performative cruelty. But frankly, we need a bit of performative cruelty. We need a bit of real cruelty. Britain used to be, famous for its cruelty, and it's when we were great. I think we've been a soft touch for too long. And the fact that 66% of asylum seekers, or people who come, I mean, they're obviously not asylum seekers. They're coming here for benefits and for an easy life. 66% are on universal credit. That is, I mean, as a Scotsman, that is disgusting. That is our thing that we do, and they're taking it from us.
Think of all the smack you could be buying with that money. You know, I mean, remarkable, isn't it? If we have a look at the Times' front page again, families face deportation in asylum law shake-up, and so that's on the front of the Times, and juxtapose it with the question that is being posed on the front of the Daily Express, which is it doomed to fail? I think what we're looking at here is a whole host of things which you will know a thing or two about, Alex, as a former Conservative MP, which is proposing something that sounds good, that sounds tough, but ultimately a human rights enthusiast judge decides is illegal.
Well, you're exactly right. There's been some very good words, strong messages, strong words. You can shut your eyes, you can be back into the heydays of sort of Boris Johnson, Priti Patel sort of government, couldn't you? And what happened? Not a lot then. What's going to happen now? Even less. Let's be honest, some of the ideas which, taking off jewellery, well, that goes against some of the ECHR measures about right to private property, getting rid of sort of families, moving families. That's, of course, not going to happen. We saw what happened in America with Trump when they started doing some of this stuff. It's just not going to happen. We hear all these sort of strong words, but nothing is changing. She's been the Home Secretary for months now. Small boat crossings have gone up, not down. They haven't stopped. We know this is not going to get past the Labour members. And we also know that the Labour hierarchy themselves know it's not going to make a blind bit of difference. They are going through performative, I wouldn't call it cruelty, but they're going through a performance, almost like a sort of coming to Christmas, a pantomime sort of go. The pantomime baddie, we're trying to do something, we're going to crack it down. We talk about Nigel going on that stuff. They need to make these words, but they're not going to do anything. We all know it's doomed to failure. We all know it's just warm words, just to try and move some of the latest Labour scandal off the front pages and talk about something else.
Well, presumably the upshot of that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the only way to really sort it is if we left the ECH.
Well, yeah, well, clearly that's the only way that we have any chance of any of these measures getting through. I think the most worrying thing, which the Times has highlighted, is that these proposals have won the backing of President Macron in France. Now, anything that's been backed by Macron in France is not going to be in Britain's best interest. Let's be honest about that.
Well, there you go. Benjamin, I'll look at your way. I mean, this is... So, I don't know if maybe we could bring up... I mean, this ties in with the Times. If we could bring up the Daily Express as well, just get a flavour of that, because they're asking again, is it doomed to fail? I'll put this to you, Benjamin. So apparently, when Shabana Mahmood was asked in the House of Commons by fellow Labour MP Catherine West about failed asylum seekers being forced into homelessness and destitution, Shabana Mahmood said that the best thing for them to do is to voluntarily leave the country. So, I mean, I agree with that. If you're going to be destitute in this country, why not go home? Especially if we are paying you to. In the case of everyone, it seems, we're willing to pay. We are willing to pay through cash incentives for people to return to their home country, and it's going to be offered to all families who have their asylum claims rejected. So is that right, what she's saying there? The best thing for them to do is to voluntarily leave?
Well, clearly, if you've not got status to remain in the UK and you can't work and therefore you can't pay for yourself, then as an individual you may well be better off by leaving. If you have a valid asylum claim, then these things probably won't arise. I think what that tells you is that the idea that Shabana Mahmood, on her 70th day as Home Secretary, is saying that suggests that she's serious. It also points out, you know, what I'd been told about why Yvette Cooper was moved out, that she was reluctant to do some of the harshest suggestions that were coming within government, and that's why Shabana Mahmood has got the job, and clearly she's serious about it. And you could feel that passion, you know, when she was quizzed by both a Liberal Democrat MP and the former co-leader of the Green Party to say, aren't you spreading division? Well, she said, you know, as the kid of immigrants, I know what the danger of division is, and if we don't solve this, the division will be worse.
Can we just... Oh, go on. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, isn't it funny that all the people who complain about division, who say, oh, this is terrible, you're dividing society, are the people who bring in deeply different cultures that necessarily divide society? Like, there's very little similarity.
I don't think a Green Party MP is a different culture.
Pretty close.
But there's no similarity in culture between, you know, somebody who can trace their roots back to, you know, Runnymede and somebody who's come from the Muirpoor Valley. It's obviously siloed culture. So if you want to end division in the country, then frankly, remigration is the way to go.
One of the issues here, just for reference, let's play that clip of, again, at some point, someone on some news channel is going to get this wrong and say the bits, the two words you're not allowed to say ever on television, especially the second one, ever at all, actually. But this is Shabana Mahmood saying the level of racism she has personally experienced and why she now knows about division in society.
To say to the honourable gentleman, I wish I had the privilege of walking around this country and not seeing the division that the issue of migration and asylum system is creating across this country. Unlike him, unfortunately, I am the one that is regularly called and told to go back home. It is I who knows through my personal experience and that of my constituents just how divisive the issue of asylum has become in our country. And I do say to him, I wish it were possible to say that there isn't a problem here, that there's nothing to see and that it is all, in fact, just extremist right-wing talking points. But this system is broken.
Yeah, and that, OK, she came at it from a slightly different angle to people like Suella Braverman or Priti Patel did, but that did put that white, liberal, middle-class bloke in his box, didn't it, really? And she was asked by Christopher Hope, the very first question he asked her was, are you sick of, basically, well-meaning middle-class white people, you know, kind of lecturing you about racism and division? And so but we're going to see a lot of noise on this.
Yeah, but we always see this way. If you look at some of our more hard-line Home Secretaries, whether it's Suella Braverman, whether it's Priti Patel, they're often from ethnic minority backgrounds. And there's often the trying to these do-gooders are these white liberal middle-class people who are trying to project their own sense of, I don't know, self-guilt, I guess, onto the wider populace, rather than people who are actually living and breathing every day the interactions, like the current Home Secretary. Now, there is definitely passion there. She was definitely passionate in the speech, but the question was she passionate for doing the job, or was she passionate for looking at the next job that she might want to do in a few months' time when Starmer may or may not go? So I think you've got to put all this in context, exactly what's going on, because we all know that none of these changes changes are going to happen, let alone for the next few months. And it's not really going to move the needle at all. So what is she doing? Why is she doing it now?
Well, how did they make them happen in Denmark? Because they've got a left-wing government in Denmark that's managed to make these changes. And I think the political establishment needs to recognise that these changes have to happen because democracy is moving to the streets, politics is moving to the streets, and people are starting to take matters into their own hands. They see that engaging with authorities, with politicians, doesn't change anything. So now they're going out, they're protesting and sometimes attacking buildings. Pretty soon there's going to be, it's going to escalate and get worse than that. So it really needs to be handled in an orderly fashion by the authorities.
Well, one of the stark things, we're going to discuss this when we come back, by the way, but one of the things that I think would indicate that maybe there's a bit of lip service being paid to us here and not actual substance is when countries refuse to take back their criminals or people who were just here illegally. I know, same thing, but whatever. At the moment, we don't seem to be clamping down when it comes to visa restrictions from them. And the main culprit for that, as far as I'm concerned, as far as many people are concerned, is Pakistan, especially when it comes to the rape gangs, etc. That is a big one, a big one. She mentioned Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Namibia today as countries that she was going to get tough with. Why not say Pakistan? And I think she can't say it because of the demographics of her constituency and quite a few other Labour constituencies, but that would be the big litmus test for her. But lots to go out here. Coming up in just a moment.
It's shameful that a Labour government is ripping up the rights and protections of people who have endured unimaginable trauma. Is this how we'd want to be treated if we were fleeing for our lives? Of course not.
The left-wing papers have gone for the Labour revolt. The Independent is calling it dystopian. Look, I mean, Shabana Mahmood, who is, I'll remind you, a Labour Home Secretary of Pakistani heritage, is currently being called a fascist by people on the left. That's where we are at the moment. Watch this space.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
So many people within the armed services now can say that they owe their lives if they were, shall we say, work in the Middle East and in Afghanistan, in Iraq before that, actually owe their lives to the fact that it was dogs that they sent out to see whether or not there were explosives in a building, whether they were going through a minefield or whatever. So I think we were just talking previously, of course, Hannibal uses elephants. And there has not been a single year since the end of the Second World War when we have not had a conflict of some sort, and animals are still being used. We don't have horses used in the same way, obviously. We still had the cavalry, which is why 8 million horses were lost. Horses, donkeys and mules were lost in the First World War. But they weren't just the cavalry horses. They were the horses that were pulling the guns, that were delivering the armaments, that were carrying out the wounded. And what is interesting is, today in the 21st century, in Ukraine, who are leading the way in using drones in modern warfare, they are doing what they did in the First World War, and they're using horses, donkeys and mules to take the wounded out. The wonderful memorial that we have on Park Lane, it's there and it recognises that it was horses, dogs, donkeys, mules, and if you look, because they have individual statues of them, but if you actually look at the memorial itself, you will see pigeons. Dolphins. I mean, we know that dolphins are being used. As human beings, we share this planet with millions of other animals. And for centuries, we have used certain animals and abused them, used them and abused them, and got them into service with us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. So right across the front pages, it's all about Shabana Mahmood's illegal migration plan. Some strong rhetoric in the House of Commons today. Will it come to anything? But at least two of the national front pages are going on the Labour rebellion. I will just broaden that out a bit and go general left-wing, hard left rebellion, pushback. And the usual types, the usual suspects were out in force. Here is the Green Party's Carla Denyer getting smoked, actually, by Shabana Mahmood.
Does the Secretary of State understand that attempting to out-reform reform is actually just boosting this baseless far-right narrative and will only deepen divisions when we urgently need leadership and hope instead?
Let me tell her, I couldn't care less what any other political party has to say about these matters. I don't care what other politicians are saying on the television. I don't care what other activists are saying. It is Green Party politicians who are absolute hypocrites because they talk great language in here and then oppose asylum accommodation in their own constituencies.
Oh, like a jockey standing on. Yeah, there you go. But here's Zara Sultana as well, formerly of the Labour Party. Now, I don't know, is she part of your party? The money was just resting in her account. I don't know. Zara Sultana. Anyway, here she is. And I think I'm right in saying, well, you listen to it and you tell me whether you think she essentially called Shabana Mahmood a fascist here.
Seizing valuables belonging to asylum seekers, making refugees wait 20 years before they can apply to settle permanently, and deporting entire families, including children, who have built new lives here because their country of origin is deemed safe. These measures are straight out of the fascist playbook. The Home Secretary has described herself as a child of immigrants, so I ask her, is she proud to introduce measures that punish and persecute desperate and vulnerable people seeking sanctuary? And how does it feel to kick away the ladder and be praised by fascist Tommy Robinson?
Yeah, I mean, there you go. Look, there's loads of clips like that we could play to you. You get the gist. I mean, that's before we got stuck into the charity sector, the human rights lawyers who are all absolutely off their rocker this evening. Let's go to the Independent front page, and they say Labour backlash over, quotes, dystopian asylum shake-up. So go on, Leah. Is she going to be able to get this past her own MPs? You know, she's just going to be. She's now that Labour Home Secretary of Pakistani heritage is now apparently a Nazi.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, calling her a fascist, even calling Tommy Robinson a fascist, he's a civic nationalist and he's a believer in democracy. So, I mean, it's an absolute nonsense. The people who are the fascists are the people who are trying to force asylum seekers on the British people, who have made it pretty clear in every single poll, in every single vote that's ever taken place, that they don't want, like, huge thousands, tens of thousands of people coming across the channel illegally every couple of months. So, yeah, I mean, regarding the sort of party politics, will she be able to get it through? I don't think there's been that much of a rebellion so far. You'd expect the Labour backbenchers, there's no loss to them if they rebel. You'd think they'd all be in the streets screaming about it like Carla Denyer.
In a way, that really winds me up, though, Alice, because, you know, when you were in power and you tried to do anything, tackle illegal immigration, they were jumping up and down. You were blocked in the court. Oh, it was hideous. You were obviously not necessarily yourself called a Nazi, but basically probably.
I have to call that as well. But
there you go.
But up and down. But even Shabana herself signing letters to stop people being deported and stuff. So there's a complete about face when, as soon as they get in power and realise they have to make some hard decisions to actually get stuff done. Of course, they'll get through. The Labour MPs are staring down the barrel of the gun of reform and will lose their seats. They're desperate to keep going. But underlying the tensions is clearly there. And I actually think the worst front page for Labour Party today about the rebellion is not the ones talking about the rebellion, it's the Daily Mirror, talking about Keir Starmer, not mentioning these plans at all. If they're proud and celebrated what their own Home Secretary is doing, that would be on the front page of the Daily Mirror, talking about how wonderful it is. Instead, they're completely ignoring the story, pretending it's not happening, pretending we're not doing this so-called dirty thing because it's not part of what we do. But clearly, they'll have to do it. They're going to do it. And the 20, 30, 40 complete wackos of the Labour Party are not going to stop things. But don't worry, the Conservatives have said they will help the legislation get through. So that's very good politics.
Can I just make the point that our own Prime Minister and our own Attorney General, I'm absolutely convinced, would have happily represented people in legal cases to block the current Labour policy on Shabana Mahmood. I'm convinced about that. Just before we go to Benjamin on this, can I ask you, is Kemi doing the right thing here? It's on the front of the eye. Tories pledged to help the Home Secretary get this over the line. Would you vote for this?
100%. I mean, anything to try and stop the mass waves of illegal immigration coming to the country is good, and sensible politics is working together to stop such a national crisis which we're currently in.
OK, so Benjamin, these Labour rebels, they're obviously going to increase, and like I said before, you know, I mean, there was the commissioning editor at Novara Media, for example, posted a picture on X which was of one of the concentration camps, Nazi concentration camps, where they had all the shoes, you know, from the deceased, obviously, that were there, you know, in response to that story about her taking the possessions off illegal migrants. So, you know, openly being compared to the Nazis, fascists, all of that. Well, how is she going to overcome this far-left lot, especially when we know that she was basically one of those people until about a year and a half ago?
Well, no, she wasn't. And
well, she used to want to allow every single illegal migrant to work. She wanted an amnesty.
I'm pleased to tell you that the commissioning editor of Novara Media holds no influence on the Labour government. I had never heard of this individual. And look, you know, the kind of people that became Labour MPs a year ago are overwhelmingly, in basically every single case, from the moderate Blairite so-called wing of the party. These are not people like the ones that you've shown in the clips. The fact that 18 people have said they'll vote against it, most of whom are very predictable in their opposition. They've been opposing mainstream Labour Party policy under Keir Starmer for years. Some of them I've never heard of, I have to confess. This is not something that's going to be a big rebellion, because all the Labour MPs I speak to are really sick of being questioned and confronted on this topic. They want it to not be such a toxic problem.
One of the things that, again, that really winds me up about this is that for, like, basically 20 years, but let's just say the last 14 years, ordinary people who live in society, like us, were saying that we didn't like what was going on with illegal immigration, we didn't like what was going on with legal immigration, and we were told by Labour MPs that our concerns didn't matter and that we were probably racist. And now those people are going to lose their seat, so it matters to them that they sort it, and now here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody can see how it's changed. You know, people are getting radicalised by reality now. It's not weird corners of the internet or anything like that. I mean, I've seen it myself living in London. Living in London for 20 years, you know, I've seen so many, you know, Somalians have arrived that parts of London don't feel like Bangladesh anymore. It's really incredible. But what we can do, if you really want to solve this problem, anytime somebody like Carla Denyer gets up, anybody like that gets up and says, we absolutely must have everybody, the entire Horn of Africa must be shoveled into Britain for some reason. Anytime they say that, put a dozen migrants, illegal migrants in her house. Take her front door off its hinges. There's no such thing as an illegal house entry. It's actually an irregular housemate, I think you'll find, and they deserve the full rights to your entire fridge. So do that, and they'll quickly change their tune.
Well, as people in East Sussex are finding out at the moment when it comes to the Green Party. Right, coming up in just a moment's time.
Now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal and a return of politics to public service.
The front of the Daily Mirror is Sir Keir Starmer saying, I will lead Labour into the next election. The front of the Times is a report about half of Labour voters wanting Sir Keir Starmer to basically resign immediately. So there we are. All that next.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be another cold night tonight. Sleet and snow across northern areas with warnings in force from tonight until latter part of this week, because it's going to be a very cold week. We've got northerly Arctic winds pushing across the country throughout the week, and this weather front across the northwest will bring a focus for that snow for more northern areas throughout tonight. We've got a risk of ice across the far northeast of Scotland through this evening and into tomorrow morning. Elsewhere across the south and east, it should stay fairly dry and clear throughout tonight. And as clear skies remain, temperatures will fall away well below freezing rurally, so expecting quite a widespread rural frost, the first of this season so far. As I said, across more northern areas, we're going to see some more significant sleet and for some of us snow. So an icy morning for parts of northeastern Scotland in particular. A lot of rain around across parts of Northern Ireland, western areas of Scotland, down towards northwestern England as well. A good deal of cloud as well. And this rain will fall as snow above around 150 metres, especially across parts of Scotland. And we'll continue to see quite persistent rain on and off throughout Tuesday, all the way through until Thursday. So we're going to start to see snow accumulations building up on higher levels, which could bring some disruption to travel on higher routes. Across more southern areas, much of England and Wales, it should stay largely dry through much of the morning, but as the afternoon goes on, there'll be more in the way of cloud and a few showers around as well. And temperatures a little bit higher than today across the far south and west due to more cloud around, but it's going to feel quite wintry throughout much of this week. Some rain across the far south and east through Wednesday morning. That will clear away as the day goes on. And then we'll continue to see this brisk northerly wind bringing some snow showers to northeastern areas of England. So we've also got a snow and ice warning in force here, as Wednesday and Thursday is looking like the coldest part of the week. So it will get colder as the week goes on. Bye-bye.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, just before we talk about Sir Keir Starmer promising you he's going to be in charge of Labour at the next election, I hope you saw this interview. I think it's the best I've ever seen on this channel.
You're happy prescribing 9-year-old children with
the alternative,
with puberty blockers, cross hormones?
That's puberty blockers are the best time for puberty blockers is when puberty starts.
Right, you can watch all of that online, or watch it on YouTube, watch the whole thing. It's unbelievable. Ben Leo is here with us now. Ben, what have you got coming up tonight on The Late Show Live? And just congratulations, by the way, on that interview. I watched it in full earlier. It's top stuff.
Yeah, thank you, mate. I'm still contemplating whether to trans my 2-year-old kid, as she suggested last night, but I think I already know the answer to that. Yeah, just on that note, that clip has gone viral today. The interview's gone viral online, 5-6 million views all across the world, and I just wonder what the White House think about it, because this lady, her website, they're setting up in the United States, across many states across the US, and this administration is very, not anti-trans, that's the wrong word, they're definitely anti-transing children who have no competence to consent. They don't know what day of the week it is half the time, let alone whether they want to become a boy or a girl or cut their genitals off. So I just wonder what the White House think of that interview tonight. I have asked them if they've seen it, and if they're happy that this company, Gender GP, which is founded by that English doctor, Helen Weberly, whether they're aware and happy that, you know, American children could soon be using their service. So we're going to be getting stuck into that. Elsewhere, the Epstein files will probably be voted to be released tomorrow. President Trump, of course, shocking the nation, or maybe not, last night by saying, just release them, to hell with it, I'm fed up with the scandal, release all the Epstein files. There's the big vote in Congress tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. And finally, President Trump today, in his bid to clean up American cities and in his war with sort of left-leaning leaders of other states and cities, he's basically today said to the likes of LA, to the likes of Boston, he said, if you don't behave yourselves, if you don't clean your cities up from crime, you're not getting your World Cup games next year, the FIFA World Cup. So that should be interesting. Lots more to come on top of that as well, Patrick.
Hey, fascinating stuff. Ben, thank you very, very much. Ben Leo there, who'll be with you from midnight until 2 a.m. So let's have a look, compare and contrast here at the front of the Daily Mirror and the front of the Times newspaper. Sir Keir Starmer on the Mirror, I will lead Labour at the next election. He's come out fighting, insists he will be leader, promises a budget with Labour values, pledges on breakfast clubs and prescription charges to ease the worries. I'm sorry, but today is all about Shabana Mahmood, isn't it? It's all about her immigration crackdown. Why on earth has the Prime Minister decided to take the front page of the Daily Mirror tooting his own horn?
Maybe because Shabana Mahmood's been on all the papers and actually suddenly he needs to try. He's tried Stride and failed to stump on Wes last week. He's worried about the Home Secretary. It'll be, you know, John Healey next week talking about something in defence. The Starmer team clearly are very worried about what's going on. And even if you look at what he's saying, talking about pledges on breakfast clubs, that's already happened. None of this is new stuff anyway. And in my time as a Tory MP, the amount of Tory Prime Ministers I've said who said, I'll lead our party into the next election, 3 weeks later, they're all gone anyway, aren't they? Quite. I think the only person who actually led the Tory party to election who said they would is Rishi Sunak. And we all wish he hadn't. So this isn't good news for Labour.
Yeah, Benjamin, do you honestly think that Sir Keir Starmer is going to lead them in that election? Because the front of the Times, nearly half of all Labour voters want Starmer out by next election.
But also, another poll found nearly half of Labour voters wouldn't vote Labour, so I don't know how indicative that is. But, well, look, I mean, certainly the word in Westminster is that Labour MPs are extremely frustrated. I don't think they're quite at the point of organising to get rid of Keir Starmer, but the budget on the 26th of November will be a massive point, an inflection point of whether that happens. But there is also a sense that they have to do so much unpopular stuff in terms of taxes and spending cuts that actually they'd quite like Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves to do that, because it means that if a replacement Labour leadership came in, they wouldn't be held down by that unpopularity. So I don't think it's going to happen soon. I think May of next year, the local elections, is the point where it could change. But I might just point out, if I were a betting man, and I'm not, but if I were a betting man, I would bet that Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch will not be in their post this time next year.
Yeah, I mean, there's possible. I mean, that's a reasonable bet, I think. But if we look at the Mirror, there you go. Sir Keir Starmer, wearing Lord Ali's suit, probably, with and glasses, and glasses, probably, with the same tie I've seen him wear like at least 50 times, talking about flipping breakfast clubs. It's just pathetic, isn't it?
I respect that he reuses the same tie. That shows that he's got financial discipline. Don't know what he's doing in Labour. But yeah, he's using the same tie. He's not like one of these women on the catwalk. No, I mean, I think there is I think he's got a chance. He's very good at maintaining discipline and control in Labour. I mean, he's managed to do it for quite a long time so far and seen off various threats. And Labour might be a lot of Labour backbenchers might be worried about their seats. They might be worried about the direction of the party. But what would be better if Boris Johnson, if the debacle of the Tories taught us anything, it's that changing leaders frequently isn't a recipe for success in the ballot box.
I do think that changing leaders starts to undermine democracy, right? People vote for a leader effectively at a general election.
Well, you vote for the party.
They vote for the party, but they know what they're expecting. They know the deal that's on offer.
Did they
right?
know
They
what
understand
they
the
expected with
difference.
Starmer?
And so I think that if you keep replacing the Prime Minister after 2 years again and again, as we have with the Tories,
the point about a lot of today's headlines, Benjamin, is that the people on the left were absolutely not expecting Sir Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood to come out and say what they did today. And people on the right were not expecting them to do a load of stuff that wasn't in the manifesto that they ended up going on and doing. So he's in a slightly unique position of managing to annoy absolutely everybody when it comes to this, really. And if we're going to see the fallout now, so currently it's 18 or 19 Labour MPs. A huge amount of them, I guarantee you, are going to abstain whenever they come to vote for this. We're going to see a huge ramp up. For Jeremy Corbyn has called it disgraceful. The Gaza gang, they're all calling it disgraceful. So let's just see how this bubbles away in the coming days. If they have to U-turn on this or water it down, he's got to go, hasn't he?
Who, Keir Starmer?
Yeah.
Well, look, I don't think they're going to U-turn on it because they've just laid it out. They've clearly spent a long time deciding it. The idea that Jeremy Corbyn or Zara Sultana are opposed, well, that will thrill people like Sir Keir Starmer. And actually, you say they've annoyed both sides. Actually, doesn't this show that this Labour government is willing to take on the people closest and loudest, nearest to it, and have the argument with those people? Isn't that the kind of guts that you want from leadership?
But I think all we're having now is arguments and navel-gazing and policies.
Well,
I think the public... Well, exactly, and we know about this. We know what doesn't work, but what the public clearly want is some sort of action. And they want actually the Labour Party to get on and actually deal with the migration crisis, not just talk about these strong words and internal fighting. In fact, just get on, do it, and actually show some action. And that's where we as Tories failed before the last election. We did a lot of talking and not enough doing.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these polls. So it's on the front of the Times. This is a poll of Labour voters, during which 40% apparently said that Rishi Sunak was a better leader. And then you've got, I mean, it's just pretty bad. 29% think the Tories were a more competent administration. 25% say Labour was more competent.
But those aren't great numbers for the Tories either. I mean, that's still like 71%.
This is Labour voters. It's remarkable, isn't it? Absolutely remarkable. All right, we're going to park this stuff because when we come back, we've got a little bit of this.
Of course, we're looking at further measures on tax and spending to make sure that the public finances always add up.
Right, so it looks like Labour is going to tax you for going on holiday in your own country. I just can't, it's just bonkers. Anyway, more of this next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
After Storm Claudia, conditions will be improving across Portugal and Spain, rain clearing to sunshine, though we are expecting still some showers across parts of the Mediterranean. Nevertheless, on Tuesday across Portugal and Spain there will be plenty of sunshine, but as we drift our way eastwards we are expecting some heavy showers, if not some thunderstorms, across parts of Italy, the Adriatic coastline and also parts of Greece. Still plenty of showers as we head into next week, in between some brighter interludes, but feeling a lot cooler than of late.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health, Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So this is on the inside of a couple of newspapers tomorrow. I just wanted to bring it to you now. I think it's an outrage, personally. Brits might now have to pay a nightly tax on hotel and Airbnb stays in England. So you're going to be taxed to go on holiday in your own country, above what you're already being taxed to do that. The move is expected to be announced in the budget next week, and it could give mayors the powers to raise taxes by charging tourists on the cost of an overnight stay in their cities. According to the trade body UK Hospitality, it would be one of the highest tourist tax rates in Europe, which estimates a 5% holiday tax. It would cost Brits an additional £518 million. I'm sorry, I find this absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, right when Brits are feeling the pinch as well. We've had soaring inflation for the last few years, galloping inflation. We've had some stagnation in wages. A lot of people aren't feeling as well off as they did, 10, 20 years ago. So to then, when the government's just spaffing so much money up the wall on everything from illegal migrants who apparently all have to get to stay at the Malmaison, or whatever it is, the free cars, free luxury BMWs for fat people or anxious people, anything they can waste money on. The government basically just spends its time thinking up new and inventive ways to waste our money, for them to then turn around to us and shake us down for tax, when we want to go and see our granny.
What I want to know is, are all the migrants who are currently in all the hotels going to pay an extra tax as well on top? Because they get to stay in hotels for free now, and we have to go to our hotels and pay an extra tax on top. The whole thing is just ridiculous. We don't need it. Going on holiday in the UK is expensive enough as it is. This is going to cripple some of the sectors in Cornwall, Scotland, other parts of the UK. It's not
that's total nonsense. I mean, you already pay a tax when you visit a hotel. You would pay VAT if you're visiting a hotel, right? So it's not as though the principle that you don't pay taxes on things when you visit them in your own country, that's not a principle we have. And secondly, this would presumably raise huge amounts of money from people coming all over the world.
Because it'll stop them going. Because,
no, it won't.
I'm telling you now.
Have you ever been to Europe? You're paying one of these taxes every time you go to a hotel.
Have you heard the Laffer curve? Have you heard when you raise taxes, the amount you collect drops?
When I went,
it's codswallop.
Seriously, no, it's not, mate. When I went to the Lake District in the summer, I went back twice. One of which was for a friend's funeral.
Clearly, you could afford it.
Well, but this is the point, right? By the time I'd paid for the return train ticket, and then the 2 nights in one of them was an Airbnb, and then whatever you spend when you're there, right, which is just like stuff like meals and things. That is, I could have probably had a week in Benidorm for that. And so
that's what
people will do. No, but then you add...
That's because of demand.
This is my point.
This is something called supply and demand, Patrick. The demand is so high that hotel prices are through the roof.
And then you add on top of that the idea that I'm going to have to pay 5% more a night for this stuff. I'm sorry, Mayor, people are just not going to go. They're going to go. They're going to go to Prague.
Well, first of all, this is completely normal in European countries, and it's very much supported because it is a way for lots of visitors to a country to pay for things. So if you've got a situation where a council
charge the foreigners?
If you've got a situation where a council is struggling to pay for people in a care home, then why should the person on £20,000 on a very basic wage have to pay more council tax when people like you, who can afford multiple Lake District holidays in a summer, can just pay a couple of quid extra?
One of them was for a funeral, but they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay anyway.
But the big difference there is often you go abroad in places of Europe is the tourism tax or equivalent goes towards like tourist facilities, public toilets, tour guides, things for tourists. They're going back to actually create more money and revenue for the local area and mitigate some of the impact of tourism, not to subsidise social care or schools. It's just another taxation.
It's a great idea that it should subsidise that.
No, but this is just a drop.
Should be paying.
This is a drop in the ocean. What we need to do is drastically slash the state. We need to slash the size of the state. It's doing a lot of things very badly for a lot of money, and we need to bring it right down so it can focus on what it's good at, which is sitting about doing nothing, and then we won't pay as much tax.
There's a situation where if I went to, sometimes the Tories do the Tory Party conference in Manchester, so I'm from Manchester. So if I went there, I need to get a hotel room. I'd have to pay a tourism tax to go to the city that I was born in so that I could do my job.
You wouldn't.
It's ridiculous.
You wouldn't, because you could just stay with your family if you didn't want to
Well,
pay.
great. I was living on Mum and
£2 or
Dad's
£3, right?
spare room. Fantastic. All right. Yeah, thanks, Labour. I'm back in the box room. OK, I think we've got time. We've got time to do the paper run-through? Yeah, we do. All right, OK. The Metro, Labour asylum mutiny begins as the Home Sec reveals sweeping changes. The Eye, Tories pledge to help the Home Secretary get her migration crackdown past angry Labour rebels. The Sun, it just doesn't add up. Fury at perks for illegal migrants. Apparently they're getting maths lessons. The Daily Telegraph, Mahmood turns air blue in a blast at Liberals. The Mail, racist abuse that means I know a broken asylum system must be fixed. The Home Secretary rejects claims she's stoking division by saying that she's the one who gets called an effing P word and told to go back home. The Express, steps in right direction, but is the asylum plan doomed to fail? The Independent, Labour's backlash over dystopian, quotes, asylum shake-up. The Guardian, they also focus on the impending Labour rebellion. This is going to be the big news tomorrow, by the way, bubbling away. Starmer faces a Labour backlash, but no, Sir Keir Starmer tells the Daily Mirror he's going to still be in charge of the next election. Ben Leo now with The Late Show Live.
On The Late Show Live tonight, it's a big question of who done it. The United States administration here, President Trump's team, directly went to the UK government, to Labour, to request that Lucy Connolly came to the United States to give evidence in the capital on free speech. But somebody, who was it? Starmer? Lammy? Lord Hermer? We're going to find out. Somebody said absolutely not. All that and more in just a few minutes.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William